Hey guys, and welcome back to Live Well and Yoga. I'm your host, Christine Jamal. I know it's been a quick minute, actually a really long minute, but I am so glad you're here today because I want to tap into something that's been part of my personal journey for some time now, which is self alignment. And what does it mean to be in alignment with our values? Our energy and our truths, to be in alignment with what feels right for us versus what others expect for us. And when we are in our own alignment, everything just shifts. We find more joy, more peace, and more clarity. And in this episode, I'm diving into how alignment impacts how we show up in our relationships, our path, and even our creativity, and how abundance and loves find us. So if you're craving more ease and more joy into your life, this episode is for you. So, what is self alignment? Self alignment is living in tune with your values, needs, and desires. It's not perfection, it's clarity, it's truth, and it's energetic match. It's going in your own flow. And it could be so subtle, but going in the flow of others creates a sense of uneasiness. It's something may not feel right, and you may not even notice it, but your energy is off. It's so easy to go in the flow of others because we want to be liked. We want that attention. We want to be part of the crowd. But in that, there is consequence. Things may feel uneasy and you may not even know what it is because it could be so subtle. Things could be off and you may just interpret it as exhaustion or just being tired, not realizing that you're not in alignment with yourself. So, truly being in the flow with yourself, it creates a sense of peace, it creates joy and happiness. And when you're in tune with your own flow and your own alignment, it just feels so natural and it surfaces creativity, purpose, and self fulfillment. And so, I've been on my personal care journey for some time now, almost a decade. And just through each experience, I'm learning so much about myself. But even in, certain times, I can get distracted, but I can even fall off track. And it's becoming self aware that something isn't right, something doesn't feel good because I'm not honing in on my own values. I may be going with someone else's flow in order for them to have peace of mind. And when we do that, we dim our light. We're not giving our true full self to the relationship or to the friendship or whatever it is because we're not being authentic and true to our own alignment. And so, your soul will tell you that something's not right and you'll try to fix it. Or maybe, you may not even try to fix it, but you may just like dim yourself or lower yourself to meet someone else's standards, but when you're in your own flow, things shift and it's almost elevating yourself from the inside out because you become bolder, you become wiser, you become, all the things. Just recently, I did a summer cut. It was more of like a cleanse, I guess. I just wanted to find some clarity. So, I started with myself and I cut out artificial sugars. Like, I don't eat that much sugar, but, I cut out the sweet treats, the flavored creamer, and reduced my carbs, increased my protein, and increased my cardio. And it's the end of the 6 weeks. That's the reason for my hiatus. I was just so, focused on my health and wellness and finding clarity. In the 6 weeks, my clarity seriously heightened, by just giving back to myself, just being in alignment with myself, with my health, with my fitness, going outdoors for nature walks, keeping up with my yoga practice and even incorporating Pilates in the mix, but just truly aligning with me as far as fitness and also my health in regard to what I was eating, but also really finding clarity in my goals and setting a boundary for what I want for my future. It didn't even feel like discipline, or I didn't even feel withheld from anything because I was so aligned. It just felt right. Like, it just felt right to eat clean and to work out because it wasn't about forcing myself to do these things. It just came naturally. And so, From the 6 weeks, I feel so aligned and more in tune with myself. And when you are in tune with your values, goals, and beliefs, you actually raise your own bar from within. You're elevating yourself and building upon that internal foundation. It's about self-care and self-love, being in line with yourself. And when you're in alignment with yourself, you not just create the boundaries, but you allow the same the same energy back in, whether it's in regard to relationships, friendships, career, or just how you take care of yourself. You're matching that energy in, relationships that you surround yourself with. And so, being in alignment creates a sense of joy and peace. And when you're not in alignment, like I said before, you may not even know because it's so subtle to go in the flow of, another person's energy, but you may feel disconnected, detached, a lack of energy, and you'll just interpret that as exhaustion or being tired, and maybe you just need to take a nap. But truly, the energy of others can impact how we show up into these relationships, and whether it's a relationship or a friendship or even to yourself. And you have to ask yourself, when do you feel most aligned? Is it when you're alone and journaling? Is it out with friends? Do you feel aligned in your social circle? Is it out in nature? Maybe it's when you're in your yoga practice. That's when I feel most aligned, when I'm doing the things that, nurture my body, my soul, my mind. It's when I'm outdoors on a walk, with my dog. It's when I'm in a yoga practice. I just feel that mind body connection. Yoga has been so beneficial for me. And the benefits of alignment, it brings a sense of inner peace and joy. It brings clarity. And in that clarity, you can make informed decisions. And it also surfaces creativity. Like just from this 6 week cleanse, I was on this like creative high. I created actually a 12-step guide towards self-discovery and growth. It's called Her Next Page, and I will link the guide below for you guys. It's just steps that I've done, not in any particular order, that I started with it towards my self-care journey. These are the things that I've learned from other motivational speakers and people who have influenced me along the way, whether it's in regard to, we could self-care in different avenues, in so many different aspects, mind, body, and spirit, whether it's taking a walk, going for a yoga class, learning a new skill or new language. We learn so much about ourselves. We learn patience, discipline. We learn what we're capable of doing. And in that, we become a version of ourselves that's waiting to meet the world. That person's already within you. It's just tapping into that person, tapping into that woman, and letting her be free and exploring it. When we go in the flow of others, we don't learn about ourselves. We're learning when we tap into the flow of others, we're learning how to be for them. That energy is reshaping or molding us to act, respond, you navigate towards them. But when you're in tune with yourself, when you learn about yourself, when you get curious about yourself, through learning a new skill, through learning a new language, you learn discipline, patience. You learn the things that you're capable of doing, and you're capable of doing so much. Like our minds want to absorb, information. It wants to learn. It wants to grow. It's just training your mind, rewiring your mind to learn the new skill. I talk about neuroplasticity, and, our brain is programmed to do certain things. We've programmed our mind to, whether it's sit and watch Netflix. We've programmed our mind to go on that walk. We can train our brain to learn something new. It may hurt. It literally may hurt. Like just learning, I learned how to digital draft, and, learning AutoCAD for the first time really hurt my brain. Like I almost wanted to quit, but I'm so glad I stuck with it. And in 3 months, I took an AutoCAD course. And in 3 months, I learned how to AutoCAD, and just even learning a new language like Italian, which I'm still learning, but, learning that, of course, it's new to me, but, the things that we are so capable of doing, we just have to explore and be curious about ourselves, because we have so much to learn about ourselves. And when we learn about ourselves, we're in alignment. And when we're in alignment, it reflects from the inside out, and we attract the same kind of energy, whether it's in love, whether it's in relationships, friendships, career, and just, your own personal journey. And so learning about yourself, you know, impacts our life. And just learning about yourself, getting curious about yourselves has so much impact, not just in how you show up for relationships, but how you show up for yourself. It builds an internal, not just peace, but a confidence. It builds that internal foundation so you can show up in your most authentic yourself. And, it is a breath of fresh air. And I'm still learning so much more about me, but just diving in and tapping into different parts of me, I'm learning what I'm capable of, what I'm, even if I get distracted from something, it's like, okay, just starting from where I am now. It's like I'm not starting over. I'm starting from exactly from where I am now. And even if, I've been on this journey for almost 10 years now, and I can fall off track. So if there's a distraction, and I truly feel the universe tests us in so many ways. And so if there is a distraction, listen to yourself, listen to how your inner self feels inside. Does it feel good? Is this what is this actually in alignment with my goals, values, and beliefs? And it's so easy to dim your light and to go with the flow of something else because it may feel right in the moment. You may be blindsided by the adventure, blindsided from the truth. But if it's not in alignment with you, you know in your heart that it isn't right, and your soul knows if it's right or not. And you could make up a story, you could attach yourself to a story that it's okay for the meantime, but your soul knows whether it's right or wrong for you. And it's up to you to decide. And actually, your soul already knows. You just have to believe it and trust your gut. But when you make that bold move to go for what you believe in and to stay in your alignment, that just adds a little bit more, elevation. You just elevated your internal foundation, and it brings more confidence. When we try new things, we don't go in it with strength. We go in it, just make the bold move, and making that bold move builds the confidence, builds the strength. So we feel the consequences after we make the decision, after we trust ourselves to make the decision. That's when you gain the strength, and that's when you gain the confidence. And ask yourself, when do you feel most aligned? Is it in your friendships? Do you feel something is off in your friendships? Explore that, tap into that. Is it in your relationship? Do you feel aligned or not? And if you don't, again, ask yourself, well, why don't I feel aligned? What is this relationship or this friendship mirroring? What is it actually telling me? If it doesn't feel aligned, what is it that I need to learn or grow from? And it's not to say that it's about distancing yourself or disconnection. It's just about, it's not about walking away from the friendship. It's about walking towards yourself, and when you walk towards yourself and tap into the parts that, you need to maybe work on to stay aligned, then you open up that space for the friendships or the relationships that are in tune with you. And it's not about just walking away, not about like, okay, fine, they're not deserving of me. It's about walking towards yourself because you deserve yourself. And, things can go, I was just telling a friend earlier today, she's in a relationship and she jumped into it pretty quickly. And she said, well, I think I should have waited before I jumped into that. And, it's all good. You can't go backwards, of course. But if anything, if needed, she can put this relationship on pause, find herself, find the clarity, and come back stronger and a different version of herself. And then when you take a step back and, step into alignment with yourself, she can then walk back into that relationship with a clear view, with clarity, and see if that relationship is for her. Because then she'll have a better understanding of herself. And then, say that person hasn't changed, then, that internal foundation has been built, it's been established, she's aligned with herself, and she can decide, okay, this relationship is for me, or this relationship isn't. And that's funny that, we just talked about that this morning, because I've been wanting to do this episode on alignment, and then she happened to mention that. So I'm like, oh my God, that's a perfect prime example. I just let her know, of course, she's going to make the ultimate decision of what works for her. But I just mentioned, if she, it's not about, well, you have to stay in it. You can always take a step back and put it on pause, because when you end something, it doesn't mean it's over forever. It just means you need to, it's walking towards yourself and finding the clarity and understanding. And if they decide to reconnect, they can reconnect on a different kind of dynamic, and maybe even a different level of strength on both sides. So get curious about you, whether it's journaling, writing, being outdoors, trying a new activity. You gain fulfillment, you fill your own cup, and that way you can show up into a relationship already full of abundance and self-fulfilled love. So when they come into your life, they add onto your life. They don't fulfill a void, versus you can just enjoy life together. And if you don't find a relationship, then you know what? You built that internal foundation, and you're all good, because it's going to come your way when the time is right. And alignment isn't about having it all figured out. It's about honoring who you are and how you choose to live. So when you choose to come home to yourself, everything begins to reflect that truth back to you. So I hope this resonates. I hope this helps. If it does, I would love to hear. Please leave a comment below, or you can DM me on my Instagram at Christine Demal, or Live Well in Yoga. And if you're ready to explore your next chapter or rewrite your next page, my 12-step guide towards self-discovery and growth is out now. I'll link it below. And again, these are the things I did that helped me in my personal self-care journey. And this is for the woman who is ready to live from within. So until next time, stay happy, stay aligned, and of course, live well in yoga.